All right. Ben Gandy, good to see you. How are you?
Joseph, I'm great. How are you?
Good, very good. I had this interesting scenario occur the other day, and I thought it was a good example of lean. And so I wanted to talk to you about it. You deal in lean, which is basically, the improving the efficiencies of our operations and, our business processes and whatnot.
Yep.
I think back to a business school where we took supply chain classes, and they call it Six Sigma. There's
Mhm.
different words for it. Toyota historically with their production lines have used that as a means of increasing their efficiencies and whatnot. So I wanted to walk you through this, and I don't imagine I'll be able to stump you, but I want to present the scenario, and want you to tell me why it's not lean.
Okay.
So I was, sitting here the other day, and the guys showed up to do my. I have a lawn care program. The guys showed up to give me my third turf round for the year, and normally, one guy comes, one lawn applicator comes and does the application. In this scenario, there was actually two guys. So they came, you know, divvied the work, whatever they did. One did the front yard, one did the backyard. On its face, let's say that's going to take an hour of work. If two guys are doing that, it's still going to take 1 man hour, each guy 30 minutes. So in this scenario, though, why is that not lean, even though that it's still the same number of man hours?
Well, off the top of my head, Joseph, there's the mobilization where, you know, if it's a half an hour, then hopefully they're making, 16 stops or something like that in an 8-hour day. So, um, I've got whatever, if it's 10 minutes from stop to stop times 16, that's 160 minutes where I've got two guys in the cab as opposed to one. So, now if I only had one guy in there, then he's not going to make 16 stops, but I don't have to pay double mobilization for every stop. Off the top of my head, there may be other things,
Yeah,
but
no, off the top of your head, that's what I was thinking. So as I was thinking, I didn't think I'd be able to stump you. So I actually, when that happened, kind of was thinking through that and punched up a little bit of an example here. So I'm going to pull that up, and it's essentially what you just said, but I wanted to walk through it. On your left-hand side, you've got the two employees working together. And on the right-hand side, you have essentially two separate timesheets. They're off doing, in this case, I have 6 jobs. Each one takes an hour. Each one is taking 3 jobs where they're working separately as separate crews, but together they're doing all 6 of them together. It's still 6 man hours, or really 12 man hours of work. But the travel and the mobilization, like you're saying, is where it's not lean. So on this side, I'm using in all cases, and maybe this is fair or not fair, but 15 minutes of travel to each site.
yep.
And when you total that up, when the guys are working together, they're working 15 and a half hours. And when they're working by themselves, it's 14 hours. So that 15 minutes really, really adds up. And you do some more math, like you were saying, 15 minutes a day, or however many it is a day, that adds up too. So down here, I've got that total difference is an hour and a half. You figure if these guys were going to operate like that for the entire year together, they're doing maybe 260 working days a year. Extrapolate that, and you've got 390 wasted hours of indirect time, non-productive time that these guys are sitting in the truck. And we can ascribe a dollar amount to that of let's say these guys are getting $25 an hour on average. That comes out to almost $10,000 at bottom line dollars. And again, maybe it's fair or not fair to use 15 minutes for travel. Maybe it's not always like that. Maybe you can get some tighter routing, but I think it kind of makes the point that you're wasting productive hours and dollars by doing that. And just to use your words in the my verdict there at the bottom is that's not lean. So to be lean would be to operate like we're doing over here separately on this side. I think it has to be said, like, of course, maybe these two guys were just doing this one day. Maybe the truck was down. They were doing some training or something like that, to be fair to them. But again, I thought this was a cool example of lean, and curious if you have what other thoughts you have on travel and working together or separately, how many people on a crew.
Well, I think that, if perhaps one of the guys was in training and he's following around a veteran to just learn how to do the operation, it's perfectly legitimate. I get it. That's fine. But in a scenario where they're both skilled guys, you've illustrated, $10,000 worth of wasted cost, excess cost. We could take that even further and say, based on the blue columns, 15 and a half hours, if they're separate, couldn't they maybe, based on 2 hours and 25 minutes to stop, or 15 minutes to stop, maybe they could each get a whole nother stop in. So in other words, for the same cost component or close to it, I could gather more revenue. Because one of the arguments somebody may have with you is, yeah, I see the labor savings, but I got to have 2 trucks, and that costs additional. But the fact is, on labor alone, I'm going to save almost $10,000 in labor. I'm going to be ahead. If you could add in just one more stop per guy and reap the benefit of the gross margin for that, you could pay for a truck with just the savings in your scenario here.
Exactly. Yeah. You could have, just kind of punching it up for illustration's sake, you get 2 more jobs done in that one day. You could probably do the math on that too, and look at it at a whole year and figure how much more work you could squeeze in, which is more dollars on the top line, right?
More dollars on the top line, more gross profit dollars ultimately attributed to these guys earning to contribute to the business, with only marginal increase in cost. Just 15 more minutes per guy, right? So
yeah,
that you would get. So I think that you're absolutely right. It's just a very crystal clear example of, it's not lean. It's not your verdict, right? It is dead on. It's not lean to operate as a pair in that way. If it's a training scenario or something like that, awesome. Let's do that by all means. But generally, applications are not a 2-man job. Generally,
Yeah. And that's an important point too. Applications are not a 2-man job. I think the flip side of this that's also worth mentioning is, like, in that scenario, again, front yard, backyard, you split an hour up, it's a half hour. But there are services and jobs that when you do throw more guys at it, you are going to gain efficiencies, right? Like it's 2 guys are going to move a boulder quicker than 1 guy is going to move a boulder. So there definitely are reasons why you'd want to do the exact opposite of what I'm showing here.
Absolutely. Yeah. There are times when, it's the right number of people matter. But I think that a scenario that you laid out, the right number of people is 1 guy in the spray truck.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, again, I didn't think I was going to be able to stump you. I appreciate you walking through it with me. Any other thoughts on travel or lean in general?
It's just our industry services real estate, so we're going to have to travel, and it's a cost of our business that we estimate in. But 100% of travel is waste. We're not providing any value to our customer when we're traveling. So I think it really behooves us, to think long and hard about routing, about headcount, about that piece of it, because it is a big part of our cost. And it's not just the cost that's involved. In terms of labor, it's the fuel and it's the risk. Every moment that we're on the road, there's a risk. So thinking long and hard about routing and about headcount pays us, I believe.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't get thought of enough, probably, whenever this XYZ job needs to get done. It doesn't matter if it's across town from the job that's preceding it. Like we got to get the guys there. But if you do think about it and plan for that ahead of time, you can avoid those situations and, like you're saying, limit it.
Yes, limit it. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, very cool. Well, Ben, I appreciate you, and maybe if I come up with another scenario, we can do another one of these.
Awesome, Joseph. Great to see you. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Ben.